Okay, let's talk a little bit of good news in the gaming world, and there is good news on the horizon, lords and ladies, specifically with respect to Exodus. Next month in December, we know 100% that an animated short will be released under the rubric of Secret Level, and there are several other shorts coming out for that, including Dungeons & Dragons, The Outer Worlds 2, and oddly enough, Concord. For some reason, they're maintaining that. I don't know why. It's a bit funny, no? And we know this for sure. But I think it's very likely that in addition to the animated short for Secret Level, we will be getting actual gameplay or game content. Because as the directors of Exodus have said, their marketing team has been getting on their butts about putting some actual material out. We're all really curious. People want to see what the game looks like. And those of us who are interested in the game are all fairly hyped. But it's hard to stay hyped when, frankly speaking, there's no actual in-game footage, apart from some very early pre-alpha stuff, which is not that interesting at the end of the day. Now, given this very extreme likelihood, and given the fact that we will be seeing this animated short, I thought it'd be important to remind you, and to enjoin you, and most importantly to recommend to you, that you check out the companion piece to the game, which is what I'm calling it, which is the book called The Archimedes Engine. Exodus, The Archimedes Engine, written by Peter Hamilton. Now, for those of you who don't know, Peter Hamilton is a world-famous science fiction author from England. He writes very well, and he wrote this book. Now, I have to be honest, this is the first book I've read by Peter Hamilton. I've heard about him by renown, so to speak. He's very well known. But this book is very well written. I'll talk about it in a bit. But more importantly, this author, and I've mentioned this in previous videos, is working hand in hand with Archetype Entertainment in terms of writing consultancy, which is to say, he is in some way, shape, or form a direct part of the writing process of the game. And again, this guy is a big deal when it comes to science fiction writing, which is another reason that assures me that the writing and the plot and the story of Exodus is going to be pretty good. I would be shocked if it weren't. Now, why should you read this book? Well, for one, there are a lot of series out there that have books that come out later. You have Warhammer, which originated as tabletop. You have Dungeons & Dragons. You have Star Wars. All these IPs started in a different form. But here in this case, in all likelihood due to marketing strategy, this book was written as, to my mind, a kind of primer or introduction to the universe of Exodus. And the great thing about this is, even though it takes place in the same universe, in the Centauri cluster, it is not directly related to the events of Exodus the game. So what you essentially get here is a very well-written science fiction space operatic plot that serves as a vehicle for explaining to you the basic elements of this universe. You learn about the Celestials, you learn about the humans, you learn about the changelings, you learn a lot about the different types of technology that are available in the universe of Exodus. But because the book itself takes place in a different sector of the cluster, so to speak, you're not compromising the game's integrity in any way. In fact, the book takes place later. But despite that, I think if you're interested in Exodus, this is just a great way to get a sense of how it all works. And there probably isn't a better person alive today to tell you the tale that is told in this book, because, as I said, Peter Hamilton is a big deal when it comes to science fiction, and most specifically, space opera, which is, at the end of the day, as we all know, what Exodus is going to be. It has been heralded as the spiritual successor to Mass Effect, and Mass Effect was a space opera. That's why people were invested in that IP. But now that Mass Effect is basically defunct and gone, I'm not at all holding my breath for Mass Effect 5, and I don't think you should either in light of BioWare's recent appearances, so to speak, in terms of games they put out. And so if you're interested in finding out more about the universe, more about the setting, more about how things work, more about the Celestials, and there are things that are relevant here. So for example, in the book you have a lot to do with the Crown Celestials. And James Olin has stated officially in Q&As that you will be dealing with the Crown Celestials the most in the game. So if you familiarize yourself with them in the book, you'll kind of get a sense of how they are as a species, how they interact, what their culture is like, etc., etc. Now, I understand if you don't have time to read a physical book. Not everyone has the time. But the fabulous thing about the Archimedes Engine is that it has a wonderful audiobook edition. And I say it's wonderful because the narrator is particularly talented. He's a British actor called John Lee. He has a great range of voices, a great cadence, and he really knows how to deliver an audiobook. And I've delved into both the audiobook and the physical copy, and I can strongly recommend the audiobook to you if you don't have time. Maybe you can listen to it on a jog or a walk or what have you. But if you're interested in Exodus, the game, this is a great companion piece because this is probably the first time you actually have a book coming out preceding a game. And it is meant to hype you up, and I think it's somewhat justified. The science, the biology, the technology, as well as the space opera elements are just top-notch, and I strongly recommend it. So if you're interested, do check out the book. It's great, and you will know what Exodus is kind of about. And to be honest, after having finished the book, I was that much more psyched and interested in Exodus the game, and I hope that you have a similar experience. Now, as in December, there's guaranteed to be some more Exodus content, if not potentially significantly more. I plan on talking a lot more about Exodus. It is the game I'm looking forward to the most, and that says a lot because I'm normally a fantasy guy. I'm not a sci-fi guy, even though I don't mind sci-fi, but the writing and the compelling universe have really captured my interest, so I'm completely on board for this, and thus you can expect a lot more Exodus content coming from me in the future. In any event, I do hope you check out the book. It is a great primer and companion for the game, I'm certain of that. And if you like my videos and you like my content, you can leave a comment, share, and subscribe. It's much appreciated. It really helps out the channel, and I'll check you out next time. Take care.